request you to stay on as we move ahead, viewers. There's some breaking news now coming in. In fact, the Israeli military has confirmed that it has recovered the remains of Israeli police officer Ran Gvili, the last hostage held in Gaza. His return marks the completion of a key condition in U.S. President Donald Trump's plan to end the Gaza war. This development follows the handover of Thai agricultural worker Sud Thisaker Thalak in December 2023, with Gvili's remains now returned. The recovery of all hostages, both living and deceased, marks a significant milestone in the ongoing war. All right. And now moving on, viewers, some news from China, where President Xi Jinping has moved to strengthen ties with Vietnam in a phone call with its newly reappointed leader, To Lam. This was the first contact between the two leaders since To Lam was unanimously confirmed to lead Vietnam's ruling Communist Party for another 5 years. Chinese state media said Xi emphasized deeper cooperation between Beijing and Hanoi on regional and global issues and called for stronger communication and mutual trust. The call comes despite a long history of mistrust and territorial disputes between the two countries, including over the South China Sea. At the same time, Vietnam has been expanding its engagement with the United States, even as China and the US maintain a fragile tariff truce. She also warned of global risks and said both sides must work to manage challenges and avoid confrontation, signaling Beijing's intent to keep Vietnam close as regional competition intensifies. All right, Collins requested to join me back in the discussion here. Of course, Vietnam is a communist country, and ties with China are expected to be rather good. But with the To Lam taking over the country, what changes, if any, we can expect?
Well, Vietnam will continue to to hedge, and of course also the policy of Vietnam has always been to seek strategic alignment. Not an outright alliance with any other party. Of course, he has been treating China as a critical partner, closest neighbor. Of course, also trying to have these deeper friend-sharing efforts with the West, especially with the US. And Vietnam is viewed with great importance by Beijing in terms of being a strategic power in the southern flank. And also, of course, we've seen how it remains an important swing state in Southeast Asia. So Beijing wants to keep Vietnam close to its orbit in all aspects, in economic terms and of course in geopolitical terms, and to prevent Vietnam from falling into the influence of other Western countries, especially the US. So we have seen how the bamboo diplomacy concept of Vietnam and the four no's, no alliance, no outright military alliance with other powers, and no use of force and all that. So these have been seen to be great to be good by Beijing in terms of keeping Vietnam as it is. And of course, Hanoi is also looking forward for greater economic collaboration with Beijing, but also at the same time has been wary of the actions by Beijing, especially in South China Sea. And Vietnam is not, it's not afraid to show a credible show of force if needed as a deterrence against China in South China Sea. But this outreach is also meant as a key messaging tool to Southeast Asia that China is a partner and is looking to extend this partnership beyond other sectors, including on economic relationship. But of course also Vietnam's rise and the importance of Vietnam to both powers, to both Beijing and Washington, has been profound. And that with this new National Congress in Vietnam and with the consolidation of power by To Lam, we will foresee that it will continue to have this kind of strategic hedging with both powers. But I foresee that at the same time also To Lam will continue to also seek greater defense ties with the US as an insurance, as a key fallback option, while at the same time, again, not to send a wrong message to Beijing and to President Xi. And To Lam will continue to have this to have a deeper economic partnership, and of course, he cannot be seen, or he cannot afford to have this, a new ties that will be strained by wariness, and of course, they both share the same ideological narratives, and China will still remain an important economic partner to Vietnam, especially with the new transition towards this new 2030 vision, 2045 vision, which will need greater economic support from external powers, especially from China, with regards to whether supply chain resilience or energy transition, infrastructure connectivity, and Vietnam is seen as the key gateway to Southeast Asia in that regard. So I don't see any deterioration of economic ties between both powers, but on security and military terms, I foresee that the US will continue to remain largely in the radar of Vietnam, but again, this will be done under the mantra and concept of strategic hedging, not an outright alliance. And this status quo will continue at least for the years to come, especially under the leadership of Tolam.
Right, Collins, thanks very much once again. Moving on, viewers, let's cover some news from Indonesia, which has